He was outnumbered, but the princess refused to let him fall. For months, Kale had flown the outer rim alone, mapping unknown systems and reporting back to the human kingdom. He had always believed that caution was the path to survival, yet nothing could have prepared him for the trap waiting ahead. Kale's comms crackled with static as he scanned the radar. At first, he saw nothing unusual. Then a series of small blips appeared, growing larger by the second. The numbers were impossible, too many to handle for a single ship, yet too coordinated to be random debris. His stomach tightened. They had been found. The enemy fleet, dark and sleek, moved with precision. Kale's heart pounded as he realized the scale of what he faced. "This isn't a scouting mission anymore," he muttered, his voice firm but tense. He activated evasive thrusters, weaving through the asteroid field as lasers streaked past him. Explosions lit the void, some close enough to shake the hull of his ship. Despite the danger, Kale remained calm. Every movement was calculated. He had been trained for impossible odds, though nothing in his training had prepared him for being outnumbered 10-1. Yet giving up was not an option. He had seen too much, fought too hard to surrender now. The enemy ships were relentless. They anticipated his maneuvers, surrounding him in a deadly cage. A direct hit tore through the ship's rear engine, and alarms blared. Kale gritted his teeth, gripping the controls as sparks flew across the cockpit. He had minutes, maybe less, before the next barrage would end everything. In the midst of the chaos, Kale thought of Princess Alara. She was a symbol of hope, a leader who had inspired countless humans with her courage and decisiveness. Even now, far from her influence, her presence gave him strength. He wouldn't allow the enemy to claim victory so easily, not while there was still a chance to survive. The ship shuddered violently as another laser strike hit. Systems failed one by one. Kale's hands moved with precision, rerouting power, patching shields, and manually controlling thrusters that threatened to burn out. It was a fight of survival, a battle between human ingenuity and raw mechanical power. Then came the moment that shattered his last thread of hope. A massive explosion rocked the ship as a direct hit to the cockpit severed communications. Kale was isolated. He floated in a cloud of debris, the hull pierced in multiple locations. The enemy had him trapped. For the first time, he allowed himself to truly fear death. He thought of his crew. They had been scattered in the ambush, each facing impossible odds. Kale's mind raced with plans, alternatives, anything that could save them. But the asteroid field was no longer safe. Every corner, every shadow concealed more enemies. Survival depended on speed, wits, and a touch of luck, and luck seemed to have abandoned him. Yet even in that dark moment, Kale refused to surrender. He activated the emergency thrusters, weaving through jagged asteroids, narrowly avoiding collisions. His hands were steady despite the pounding in his chest. Every second counted. Every second could be the difference between life and death. As the enemy closed in, Kale's eyes caught movement on a nearby asteroid. Small lights blinked, ships perhaps, but they weren't attacking. He squinted, analyzing the pattern. Could it be an ally? No, too far, too few. Still, he used the chance, diving into the asteroid's shadow to escape the relentless fire. Somehow he managed to put distance between himself and the attackers. His ship groaned under the stress, sparks flying from the damaged systems. He navigated through narrow gaps, barely large enough to fit the vessel, relying on instinct as much as skill. The enemy pursued relentlessly, but Kale's maneuvers kept him alive, for now. Far above, orbiting the distant planet of Vera, Princess Alara received the distress signal. Her eyes widened as she read the incoming coordinates and ship logs. Commander Kale, the bravest and most skilled pilot of the human kingdom, was trapped. The council had advised caution, citing the overwhelming odds, but Alara refused to wait. With determination burning in her eyes, she activated her personal command vessel. Her crew, loyal and seasoned, moved with practiced precision. "We're going in," she said, her voice calm but resolute. There was no hesitation, no doubt. Kale had never failed her people, and she would not fail him. As Alara's ship slipped into the asteroid field, she studied the radar carefully. She had flown dangerous missions herself, but nothing like this. The enemy was relentless, highly coordinated, and clearly expecting a rescue attempt, yet that only made her more determined. Humans thrived in the impossible. It was in their nature to survive, adapt, and outthink stronger foes. Kale, meanwhile, knew he could not last much longer. Systems were failing, and oxygen levels were dropping. but he refused to accept defeat. Each maneuver was designed to buy time, each evasive move a calculated gamble. The void around him was unforgiving, yet it could also be exploited. Asteroids became shields, debris became traps. His human mind found patterns where machines could not, anticipating enemy behavior and countering it with bold improvisation. Time stretched, moments blurring as life and death hung in balance. Kale's fingers moved rapidly across controls, rerouting power, stabilizing shields, and manually guiding the ship through impossible angles. He had become one with the vessel, a fusion of human will and mechanical response. And then, like a sudden spark in the darkness, he saw it, a faint glimmer of light approaching through the asteroid field. Hope surged within him. Could it be Alara? His heart raced, but caution held him back. Enemy ships could easily use a decoy. Still, the glimmer grew larger, moving with purpose and precision. Princess Alara's voice finally came through the damaged comm, clear despite interference. "Kale, hold on, we're coming." Relief flooded him, but it was tempered with urgency. They were still deep in the enemy's trap. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and everything would be lost. Kale steeled himself. He had survived countless missions, faced countless odds, but this was different. Outnumbered, cornered, and critically damaged, he relied not on firepower, but on human ingenuity, instinct, and the unwavering resolve of someone who refused to give up. The enemy closed in from all sides, but Kale and Alara were not alone in spirit. Two humans, determined and resourceful against overwhelming odds. The battle was far from over, but the spark of hope, fragile yet undeniable, had been lit. Kale's ship shuddered violently as he clung to the controls. Sparks flew across the console, warning lights flashing like stars gone mad. The enemy's ships pressed in relentlessly, their sleek hulls glinting coldly in the asteroid light. Kale's hands moved quickly, rerouting power, adjusting shields, and finding every tiny opening between the jagged rocks. Each maneuver was a gamble, and he knew one misstep could mean the end. Then a sudden flare appeared in the distance, a glow that cut through the darkness of the asteroid belt. Kale squinted, heart racing. It was no enemy ship. The movement was too precise, too purposeful. Hope surged. He pushed the ship harder, weaving through the dangerous field, trying to reach the source of that light. "Kale, can you hear me?" A voice crackled through the damaged comm. It was Princess Alara, calm and firm, yet carrying an unmistakable urgency. "Hold on, we're near. Follow my signal. I won't let you fall." Kale's hands tightened around the controls. The sound of her voice, steady and unwavering, gave him a surge of determination. He had survived traps before, but never with someone so committed to him. He glanced around at the flaring explosions of enemy lasers, the asteroids looming like silent giants, and felt a flicker of hope. Not hope alone, confidence. With Alara coming, survival was possible. Alara's ship emerged from behind a massive asteroid, cutting through the darkness like a silver arrow. Her crew worked in perfect synchronization, dodging the enemy's attacks with human ingenuity that no machine could fully anticipate. They weren't the strongest force in the galaxy, but they were clever, adaptable, and fearless, a small team of humans ready to challenge overwhelming odds. Kale guided his ship toward her signal, dodging a volley of lasers. He could see her ship clearly now, sleek but sturdy, glinting with confidence. "Almost there," he muttered, adjusting thrusters to match her position. His heart pounded as enemy ships realized the attempt at rescue. They began to converge, their formation tightening like a noose. Alara's voice came again, calm and commanding. "Stay in my blind spots. Use the asteroids as shields. I'll draw them away from you. On my mark, move." Kale obeyed, trusting her instinct and strategy. Humans had a way of seeing possibilities machines did not. He dodged behind a massive chunk of rock, feeling the enemy's weapons slam into its surface. Sparks and fragments flew everywhere. The asteroid shuddered but held. Kale's quick thinking and improvisation kept him alive. Alara's ship moved with precision, darting between enemy formations, her crew anticipating every maneuver. Lasers that had been aimed at Kale's small vessel now followed her ship, giving him precious seconds to maneuver. It was risky, too risky, but the human capacity to improvise shone brightly. Kale seized the opportunity. He pushed his ship forward, diving between two massive rocks. The enemy hesitated, confused by his unpredictable path. His ship shuddered as it grazed an asteroid, but he kept control, focusing solely on survival and the glimmer of hope ahead. Alara saw him weaving through the chaos, his skill and determination evident even through the sensors. She smiled briefly, silently acknowledging his resourcefulness. "That's it, Kale," she whispered. "You can do this just a little further." Suddenly, a massive enemy frigate cut in front of Kale's path. Its weapons glowed, a deadly warning of the firepower it could unleash. Kale's pulse quickened. There was no time to think, only to act. He gritted his teeth, analyzing every possible angle. Using the asteroid as a shield, he executed a risky maneuver, diving at full speed while simultaneously activating the emergency thrusters to dodge the incoming laser volley. The ship jolted violently, alarms blaring, but he made it through. Alara's crew cheered silently as Kale reached the designated rendezvous point. Their calculated movements, careful timing, and human ingenuity had worked, but the danger was far from over. Enemy ships began to close in on them from all sides, clearly aware that a rescue was underway. "Hold steady," Alara commanded. "We need a distraction, something bold." Kale's mind raced. He had no weapons left capable of causing major damage, only speed, agility, and creativity. "I have an idea," he said through the calm, breathless but determined. "If I can draw two of their smaller ships toward me, you can flank the others. They won't expect a reverse ambush in this asteroid field." Alara considered it, her eyes narrowing with focus. "Do it." "I trust you." Kale took a deep breath, then maneuvered his ship toward the enemy, baiting them expertly. Lasers streaked past, nearly missing him. Each second was tense, each movement precise. His understanding of space, physics, and human instinct allowed him to anticipate the enemy's response. It was risky, but it was human ingenuity at its finest. Alara's crew moved quickly, coordinating their own positions to exploit the chaos Kale created. Using the asteroids, they flanked the remaining enemy ships, disabling weapons and jamming communications. It was a careful dance of intelligence, strategy, and daring moves, every action relying on humans' ability to adapt and improvise under pressure. Kale's ship, battered and sparking, finally reached the designated extraction point. He floated near Alara's ship, unsure how much longer his damaged vessel could survive. Alara extended a docking arm, steady and precise, a lifeline amidst chaos. With careful maneuvering, Kale attached his ship, his hands trembling but steady. "You made it," Alara said, her voice calm but warm. Relief was clear, yet urgency remained. "Now hold on tight, we're not out of danger yet." As they moved together, enemy ships regrouped, attempting to chase them. Alara's crew moved with extraordinary coordination, exploiting every weakness, using asteroids as cover and striking with precision. Their human ingenuity, quick thinking, and refusal to give up made them a force even against overwhelming odds. Kale watched her work, awe and gratitude filling him. She had defied every rule, every expectation, just to save him. And yet it was more than bravery. It was intelligence, strategy, and human perseverance. He realized that survival in space was not just about technology or numbers, but about courage, cleverness, and the refusal to surrender. The enemy, frustrated and confused by the unconventional tactics, began to retreat. Kale's ship, barely operational, was safely tethered to Alara's. Together, they navigated the asteroid field, dodging debris and laser fire with precision. Humans had turned the tide, not with superior numbers, but with quick thinking, coordination, and determination. Finally, after what felt like hours of tense maneuvering, they cleared the asteroid field. The black void of space stretched before them, still dangerous but momentarily free from immediate threats. Kale slumped in his chair, exhausted but alive. Alara's hand briefly touched his arm, a silent acknowledgement of mutual respect and relief. "Thank you," Kale whispered. I thought I was done for." Alara shook her head, her expression steady. "You never were. Humans survive against impossible odds, Kale. That's what makes us strong. And I won't let any of our people fall, not even you." Kale looked at her, understanding finally dawning. It wasn't luck that had saved him. It was human determination, resourcefulness, and the refusal to give up on one another. That combination, he realized, was stronger than any enemy fleet. As they set course for a nearby human colony, Kale's ship tethered safely to Alara. Both knew the battle was not over. The enemy might regroup and more dangers lay ahead. But in that moment they had proven something undeniable. Humans, clever, brave, and determined, could survive and even thrive against overwhelming odds. The journey ahead would be difficult, and the enemy would not stop. Yet Kale felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. And with Princess Alara by his side, guiding the way, survival was more than possible. It was inevitable. The quiet hum of Alara's ship filled the cockpit, punctuated only by the occasional alarm from Kale's battered vessel still tethered alongside. The asteroid field was behind them, but danger lingered like a shadow. The enemy fleet had retreated, but that retreat was strategic, not defeated. Kale and Alara both knew it. The outer rim was a minefield, and somewhere beyond the dark void their pursuers were regrouping. Kale's fingers traced the console, checking the remaining systems. "How long until we reach the colony?" he asked, his voice low, measured. "Not long," Alara replied, her eyes scanning the sensors with precise focus. "But we can't assume safety. The enemy will try to strike again. They'll expect us to be cautious. That's why we won't be." Kale looked at her, understanding dawning. Humans had a way of turning weaknesses into strengths, of using the enemy's assumptions against them. While machines and armies relied on raw power, humans thrived on ingenuity. That had saved him once. It could save countless others now. Alara plotted a course through a narrow region of asteroid belts and debris fields, too dangerous for most ships, but ideal for a small, agile team. Kale marveled at the precision of her navigation. Every maneuver was calculated, but there was also an element of improvisation, a human touch that no algorithm could replicate. Hours passed in tense silence. Kale reviewed the enemy's known tactics, predicting their next moves. He knew that even though they had escaped, the enemy would not give up. Every system, every signal was a potential trap. But Alara anticipated this, plotting multiple routes and contingencies. Her calm determination inspired him. "Kale, I want you to help me plan a counterstrike," Alara said suddenly, her voice cut through the hum of the engines. "The ambush was a diversion. They're planning something bigger, something that could hit our colonies directly." Kale's eyes widened. "A full-scale attack." "Possibly," she said. "We can't wait for them to strike first. We have to act. But we're outnumbered. That's why we'll use what they won't expect: our brains, our adaptability." Together, they studied the enemy fleet's known positions, the weak points in their formations, and the routes that could be exploited. Kale suggested creating decoys with small drones and remote ships, while Alara coordinated a flanking maneuver through the debris fields. The plan was risky. Any failure could mean total annihilation, but it relied on the strengths humans had always possessed: courage, cunning, and the ability to adapt. As they moved closer to the enemy's territory, they began testing their strategy. Kale piloted a small shuttle, deliberately exposing it to enemy scanners. Lasers fired in his direction, but he maneuvered unpredictably, luring enemy ships into narrow passages where Alara's team could strike unseen. Each engagement was a small victory, each success a testament to human ingenuity. Meanwhile, Alara coordinated the larger fleet's movements from her command vessel. Using real-time calculations, intuitive leaps, and flawless communication, she orchestrated attacks that confused and disrupted the enemy. Machines calculated probability, but humans could anticipate unpredictability. This advantage, small but vital, began to shift the balance. Kale's shuttle, battered but functional, delivered crucial information back to Alara. He guided enemy ships into ambushes, forcing them to collide with asteroids or fire at empty space. Each maneuver required split-second decisions, combining experience, instinct, and creativity. He felt alive in a way that only a true fight for survival could produce. Hours turned into a tense cycle of attack and retreat. The enemy tried to regroup, but each attempt was anticipated and countered. Kale and Alara coordinated their actions seamlessly, a dance of strategy and bravery that showcased the human spirit. No machine could replicate their improvisation. No algorithm could predict their creativity. At one point, Kale found himself surrounded by 3 enemy ships, their weapons locked on him. The situation seemed hopeless, but he remembered Alara's earlier words: humans survive against impossible odds. He calculated a risky trajectory through a dense asteroid cluster, relying on the debris to block lasers. The ships followed blindly, their weapons striking rocks instead of him. In a daring move, he reversed thrust, narrowly avoiding collisions, and sent signals to Alara's fleet, triggering a surprise counterstrike. The enemy ships were caught off guard. They were forced into positions that exposed their weak points, allowing Alara's team to disable several of them without heavy losses. Kale's heart raced, relief mingled with adrenaline. Every small victory counted, every clever move mattered. Humans had turned disadvantage into opportunity, outthinking the enemy at every step. Alara watched the unfolding chaos through the sensors. Her smile was faint but satisfied. "They can't predict us," she said softly. "They never could." Kale returned to her ship, the tether secure, both ships now navigating the debris field as a single unit. "I never imagined we could pull this off," he said, exhaustion in his voice. Alara shook her head. "We did it because we don't give up. That's what makes humans strong. Numbers, firepower, technology, they don't define us. Courage, creativity, determination, those do." As they pressed deeper into enemy territory, they discovered the enemy's main staging area, a hidden fleet preparing to attack multiple human colonies simultaneously. The scale of the threat was staggering. Thousands of ships, armed and ready, loomed like a dark cloud over the human settlements. It was a challenge that seemed impossible to counter. Alara turned to Kale. "We can't take them head-on, we have to be smarter than they are. We'll use everything we've learned, decoys, ambushes, unpredictable maneuvers. If we strike first and disrupt their coordination, we can turn the tables." Kale nodded, understanding immediately. He felt a surge of determination. The enemy might have numbers, but humans had something far more dangerous: ingenuity and the willingness to act when others hesitated. They spent hours coordinating the plan. Small strike teams were dispatched, decoy drones activated, and timing synchronized to the second. Every movement relied on human adaptability and intuition. Alara's leadership was precise but flexible, giving each team the freedom to act creatively within the framework of the plan. The moment of action came suddenly. Kale piloted his shuttle through the enemy lines, triggering alarms and drawing attention. Lasers fired at him relentlessly, but he used the asteroid field to his advantage, maneuvering unpredictably. The enemy ships collided and misfired, their formation breaking apart under pressure. Alara's fleet struck simultaneously from multiple directions, exploiting the chaos. Ships that had seemed invincible were disabled with careful, precise attacks. Communications jammed, coordination failed, and the enemy's numerical advantage evaporated under the force of human strategy. Kale executed the final part of his maneuver, guiding the last of the enemy ships into a trap designed by Alara's fleet. Explosions lit the darkness, and the enemy's advance faltered. For the first time, Kale felt the tide turn. The impossible had been made possible. Through it all, Kale and Alara remained calm and focused, their synergy a testament to human resilience. Each decision, each move was guided not by brute force, but by intelligence and adaptability. The enemy, though technologically superior, was outmatched by creativity and courage. When the battle finally subsided, the enemy fleet retreated in disarray. The human colonies, once under imminent threat, were safe, for now. Kale's ship, still tethered to Alara's, floated among the debris of the disrupted fleet. The stars, once cold and distant, now seemed to shimmer with a sense of victory. Alara turned to Kale, her expression steady but relieved. "We've done it. Against impossible odds, humans prevailed." Kale nodded, exhaustion and awe mingling in his voice. "I never doubted you or us. Humans, we really are something else." Alara smiled faintly. "We are. And this is only the beginning. There will be more battles, more challenges. But as long as we rely on what makes us human, our courage, our ingenuity, our determination, we will survive, and we will thrive." Kale looked out at the remnants of the enemy fleet, floating like broken pieces of a machine, and felt a surge of pride. They had faced overwhelming numbers, impossible odds, and yet, through ingenuity and perseverance, they had emerged victorious. The human colonies were safe, the enemy temporarily defeated, and Kale knew that they had set an example that would inspire generations. Against impossible odds, humans had not only survived, they had triumphed. And as the ships turned toward home, tethered together through the vast, dark expanse of space, Kale realized something profound. Survival was not just about strength or technology. It was about refusing to give up, about thinking beyond the obvious, about daring to act when others would hesitate. Humans, he understood now, were unstoppable when they refused to yield. The stars stretched endlessly before them as Alara's ship glided through space, tethered to Kale's battered vessel. The remnants of the enemy fleet had been scattered, but the threat remained. The enemy was not defeated, merely delayed. And while they had survived the ambush and executed a daring counterstrike, the larger battle for the human colonies was still ahead. Cale leaned against the console, exhaustion heavy in his bones. "We did it," he murmured, though the words felt hollow against the looming reality. "But this isn't over." Alara's eyes were sharp and focused. "It's never over, not as long as there are those who underestimate humans, but right now we have the advantage." They expect fear, hesitation, and retreat. That's where they're wrong. Humans fight differently. Humans think differently. That's how we win. Cale nodded, feeling the truth in her words. Humans had survived countless battles across countless systems, not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, adaptable, and fearless in the face of impossible odds. And Alara, she was the living embodiment of all those qualities. Their first task was to secure the nearby colonies. Scouts reported that the enemy had planned simultaneous strikes on multiple human settlements. The enemy fleet might be disoriented, but they could regroup quickly if left unchecked. Alara coordinated a rapid deployment. Ships were dispatched to warn and evacuate vulnerable colonies, while Cale guided damaged vessels through perilous asteroid passages to safety. Every moment was tense. Communications crackled with alerts of enemy movements, small skirmishes flaring up near outlying settlements. Cale's experience, paired with Alara's leadership, allowed them to react swiftly. Small teams of human pilots carried out precise strikes, disabling enemy supply lines and creating confusion within the larger fleet. It was a masterclass in strategy, improvisation, and human determination. Cale marveled at the teamwork. Even in the chaos, every human acted with purpose, relying not solely on orders, but on instinct, courage, and ingenuity. "They're unstoppable when they work together like this," he said to Alara. Alara glanced at him, her expression both serious and approving. "We only have one advantage," she said. "Brains, courage, and creativity, that's all we need. The enemy may have numbers, but we have something stronger. They can't predict us." The enemy fleet, scattered and frustrated, began regrouping near a dense cluster of asteroids. Alara saw the opportunity. "We'll force them into the field," she said, pointing to a formation on the sensors. "They'll be trapped. We'll strike from every angle." Cale's heart raced. "It's risky if they realize the trap." "They won't," Alara interrupted. "They never expect humans to take such risks." "That's exactly why it will work." Together, they executed the plan. Small decoy drones led enemy ships into the asteroid cluster, while Alara's fleet circled around the perimeter. Cale piloted his shuttle with precision, guiding the decoys and baiting the enemy into narrow corridors where every mistake could be fatal. Explosions lit the darkness, enemy ships smashing into asteroids, lasers misfiring, their formation breaking apart piece by piece. Every maneuver relied on timing, ingenuity, and the human ability to improvise under pressure. Cale pushed his ship to the limits, using the environment as a shield and a weapon. Lasers glanced off the rocky surfaces, debris scattered unpredictably, and yet humans adapted, turning the chaos into a weapon against their foe. Alara's command was flawless. She anticipated enemy reactions, directing ships to exploit weak points, coordinating attacks that machines could not have predicted. Each strike was precise, deliberate, and devastating. The enemy's numerical advantage evaporated under the force of human creativity and daring. In the midst of the battle, Cale noticed a group of enemy ships attempting to escape through a narrow pass. "If they get through, they can warn the rest," he warned. Alara's eyes narrowed. "Not if we act first. Follow my instructions." They executed a daring plan. Cale piloted his shuttle directly into the enemy escape path, drawing their fire while Alara's ship struck from behind. In a sequence of perfectly timed maneuvers, the enemy ships were trapped and disabled. Each explosion sent fragments scattering, a testament to human strategy and courage. The battle raged for hours. Space was lit with the glow of weapon fire and explosions, a dangerous ballet of destruction and survival. Every human pilot, every crew member relied on quick thinking and teamwork. The enemy fleet, though technologically superior, could not match the unpredictable ingenuity of humans working in unison. Cale's shuttle, though battered and damaged, moved with grace. He relied not on raw power, but on instinct and cunning, anticipating the enemy's moves before they could react. Each risky maneuver, each calculated dive through the debris was a gamble, but one that human ingenuity had a way of winning. Finally, the enemy's fleet faltered. Ships retreated in disarray, their command structure broken, morale shattered. Humans, outnumbered and underestimated, had turned the tide through strategy, courage, and adaptability. Kale and Alara, tethered together through space, watched the enemy scatter into the void. Alara's hand rested briefly on Kale's shoulder. "We've done it," she said, her voice calm but firm. "The colonies are safe, the enemy defeated for now, but more importantly, we've proven what humans can do. We survive, we fight, we win against impossible odds." Kale felt a surge of pride. "It's incredible, we really did it." Alara smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "It's not luck, it's human nature. We never give up, we never surrender. That's why we're unstoppable." The ships began their journey home, moving carefully through space, tethered and battered but triumphant. Every pilot, every crew member carried a sense of accomplishment and awe. They had faced overwhelming odds and survived through ingenuity, courage, and determination. As they approached the first colony, Kale reflected on what they had accomplished. Humans were more than technology, more than numbers. They were clever, brave, adaptable, and relentless. Even when outnumbered and outgunned, they could turn situations to their favor through courage and creativity. Alara's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Kale, take a look." He turned to see the colony below, its surface bustling with activity. Citizens waved as ships arrived, relief and gratitude visible even from orbit. They had been warned, evacuated, and protected. Humans had survived against impossible odds, and they knew it. Kale felt a profound respect for Alara. She had refused to let him fall, defied orders, and risked everything to save a single life. Yet her actions had also saved countless others. Courage, determination, and loyalty had combined to turn a desperate situation into victory. Alara glanced at him, eyes steady and calm. "This is what humans do, Kale. We adapt, we survive, we fight. And when one of us is in danger, we don't leave them behind. That's what makes us strong." Kale nodded, understanding fully now. Survival was not just about power or numbers. It was about heart, intellect, and an unwavering refusal to surrender. And humans, he realized, embodied all of it. As they continued to coordinate defenses and secure the colonies, reports came in of scattered enemy remnants attempting small strikes. Each was met with swift, precise responses, exploiting weaknesses and turning them into traps. Humans were relentless, fearless, and clever, qualities no enemy could ever fully anticipate. In the command room, Alara and Kale worked side by side, plotting defenses, organizing reinforcements, and preparing for any future threats. Each decision relied on human ingenuity and adaptability. They knew more battles would come, but for the moment, humanity had proven its strength and resilience. Kale finally allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought of the ambush, the impossible odds, the moments he had expected to die. And yet, against every expectation, humans had survived. They had turned danger into opportunity, weakness into advantage. The enemy had underestimated them, and that mistake had cost everything. Alara spoke softly, breaking the silence. "Kale, look at what we've done together. Against impossible odds, we've protected countless lives, and we've shown the universe that humans don't give up. We innovate, we fight, we win not because we're stronger, but because we refuse to fall." Kale smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. "You're right. Humans, we really are unstoppable." The stars stretched endlessly around them, a vast and dangerous expanse, yet no longer terrifying. Humans had survived, they had triumphed. And they would continue to do so, for every threat, every challenge, and every impossible odds the universe could throw at them. Together, Kale and Alara set a course for home, their ships moving steadily through space. Behind them lay chaos, battle, and destruction. Ahead lay hope, resilience, and the unshakable certainty that humans, clever and courageous, could face anything and emerge victorious. And in that moment, as the tethered ships glided toward the distant horizon, Kale understood something fundamental. Humans were not just survivors. They were champions of ingenuity, courage, and determination. Against impossible odds, they would always find a way to rise. No matter the enemy, no matter the danger, no matter the darkness, humans would endure, humans would fight, humans would triumph, and that truth, more than any fleet or weapon, was their greatest strength. He was outnumbered, but the princess refused to let him fall.